Hey y'all, it's Monday morning, December 7th, and we welcome you to this week's edition of This Week at AMG. Thank you for joining us today, and we are excited. We are coming to the end of another year. God has blessed AMG's ministry. We have seen a lot of wonderful fruit, and it's all because God is using faithful partners and support from individuals like you who come alongside and give your resources, your financial resources, your time as you serve with AMG, and God is using it, and we are grateful for that. As we look at our responsibility as Christians, we all of us want to be good stewards of the resources that the Lord has entrusted to us. That means using our time, our money, everything that we have for God's glory. And that includes also the need to do good financial planning as we look to the future and what happens to estates and things we leave behind, how they can be used as God leads us for His glory. Today we're going to hear from a good friend of AMG, Mike Jennings. He has been an attorney for AMG and a great supporter of AMG for a very long time. And he's going to share with us about his perspective on what it is to be a good steward and how we can use the resources that God gives us to advance the gospel. So let's hear from Mike.
Hey, my name is Michael Jennings. I'm an attorney in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Longtime friend of AMG International back in Spiro Sodioti's days. And I've done work for AMG for quite some time. One of my areas of specialty is estate planning. And people will ask me from time to time, well, do I really need a will? And I'll tell them, you already have a will, whether you know it or not, because the state gives you a will if you don't have one. And what the state puts in that will for you may not be what you want to have done with your assets. And estate planning really is a matter of stewardship, because your things will survive your death. In most cases, your children survive your death. The charitable organizations that you support, they'll survive your death too. And so what you do with the things and the relationships that the Lord gives you during your lifetime, that's governed by the documents that you leave behind. And so as a matter of stewardship and to be a good steward of what the Lord has given you, it's important that your documents adequately reflect what you believe the Lord wants you to do with your things and how He wants you to leave relationships behind after you die. Now back to that will that the state gives you. Most people don't realize that husband and wife who die without a will, the state says that if they have children, the spouse does not receive all the assets. The spouse shares the assets with the children. If those children happen to be minors, the surviving spouse may have to post a bond to guarantee that the surviving spouse does not misappropriate the assets of the minor children. The state's doing the best that the state can do when the state writes that will, but most people want the surviving spouse to have full control of all assets, to not be sharing assets with children, to not be posting bonds needlessly, and that can all be avoided by appropriate estate planning. There also is, this aspect of what do I do with my assets when I die, and I think most people have a desire to provide for their families. That's a biblical desire. It's an appropriate thing to do. At the same time as my clients get older, I see more and more of them see that their children are already established. Their children are already educated. Their children already have incomes that are able to provide for themselves. And it sometimes affords my clients an opportunity to look past just providing for their children to providing for charities that have been important to them during their lifetime. So when you die, will your giving to charity cease? Or will your giving continue? Something that your documents can anticipate and can plan for. And when it comes to charitable giving, there are even things that you can do during your lifetime to provide for your children, to provide for Christian ministry, and at the same time to minimize exposure to federal or state taxes. For instance, some clients will come to me with highly appreciated assets, often real estate, or they may have had a significant accumulation in a retirement plan. In both cases, when that property is sold or when the assets are withdrawn from that retirement account, there are income taxes to be paid on capital gains taxes on property or ordinary income on those retirement accounts. And those assets, though, if gifted to charity, can be assets where the government gets no tax from because the charity pays no income tax. And so sometimes those are very good assets to use for charitable giving, even during one's lifetime. And to the extent that that causes a concern by maybe a reduction in the value of the inheritance that your children will ultimately receive, I have clients that will sometimes take the tax savings that they realize by giving the asset away and using that tax savings to acquire life insurance to benefit the children. In other words, to replace the wealth that they gave to charity, the life insurance does that. So it becomes a win-win. Less taxes for the family and the same amount of ultimate inheritance that's distributed to the children. But these are things that don't happen unless the clients take the initiative to look into it and to do planning in advance. Now, it's interesting. Surveys say that most lawyers don't have a will. It's just a hard thing to get your hands around, and most people will think that's something that I need, and that's something I'll look into when I get older. But of course, Scripture also says that man knows not his time, and so the planning is best done now, while one is living, while one is competent, and not putting it off to a later day because that day may never come. And so I always encourage my clients to get a set of documents in place. You need estate planning. You need powers of attorney that will authorize someone to make decisions for you in the event of disability prior to death. Decisions about your health care, decisions about your finances. Most people would think it foolish to drive a car without any liability insurance. At the same time, if you have a wreck and you don't have that insurance, it's too late to get it. Similarly, if you have a wreck and you don't have powers of attorney in place, it's too late to get them. Will you ever make a claim on your insurance? Maybe not. Will you ever need that power of attorney? Maybe not. But it's a prudent thing to have it. This type of planning is something that we encourage clients to do. Whether it benefits Christian ministries or charities, or whether it just removes a lot of obstacles that your children will otherwise have to deal with after you're gone, these are the type of things that you can do now while you are capable, while you are competent, to very clearly express your wishes so that there can be no doubt as to where you wanted your assets to go, when you wanted your children to receive those things, whether you want it to benefit charity, whether you want to continue that giving that you've done during your lifetime after your death. These are things that will only happen if you take the initiative to plan, to meet with counsel of your choice, and get some documents in place. Do circumstances change down the road? Absolutely. Can your documents change down the road? Absolutely. But don't delay doing today what you have the opportunity to do to help your family and possibly to even help Christian ministries down the road.
It is a privilege to be used by God and to know that what we do is transforming lives for the glory of God and advances His kingdom. All of us have the opportunity to support this wonderful ministry, and if you would like to know more about what you can do, if you are interested in learning more about estate planning, planned giving, please give us a call or go to our website at www.amginternational.org for more information. As we come to the close of the year, we want to finish strong and we want to start 2016 strong. So please continue to pray and support AMG. Thank you for all that you do, and may God be with you. And we hope to see you next week at This Week at AMG.